Namaste. Welcome to the Shaman and the Mermaid. I'm Michael and this is my wife Katrina. We're here to give you the astrological weather from January 24th all the way up to February 8th. We do it from new moon to full moon and vice versa. This is the new moon in Aquarius. It's going to be on Friday, January 24th, and all the way up to the 8th. February 8th will be the full moon in Leo with some good things in between. We have started off with our theme, which I'll let Katrina introduce, and then
find your true north. That's what we came up. I'm just
how?
Because that's kind of what we need to do is be that Aquarian energy of innovation, surging, kind of that power go thing that comes when we get a great idea. And
we need to Puhpowee it.
Puhpowee, yeah. Well, you're jumping right into one of our words. He's getting that word from this book that I'm reading right now for our book club that's coming up at Karma on March 15th. I selected this book because it blends Native American stories and lore. She's Native American, the author, as well as brings in her botany knowledge. She's a scientist and botanist, and she brings these two merging together and explains things. And the word Puhpowee, as Michael used, it's like it's onomatopoeia for sure. It sounds like it is, but it's the word for mushroom in her native tongue. But it's also used to mean that push or that emergence or the essence of creation coming through, and that's a really potent word for this whole time too. So find your true north is our theme, but we easily could have said Puhpowee as our theme as well. We'll explain a little bit more in a minute.
This new moon in Aquarius is squaring basically the planet Uranus, who is hanging out in Taurus. So it's a lot of energy of change and revolution and new possibilities, but the square is putting some dynamic tension around that. It's like we want to go in Aquarius and go forward and have that new vision of the future, but the square is kind of saying, put the brakes on. Do you really know where you're going? Do you really have your seatbelt on? Do you really know how many volts are flowing through that plug before you put it into the wall?
Mad scientist.
Mad scientist. It's the energy of Tesla. So this new moon Aquarius is opening us up to lots of visioning and being the eagle soaring over the landscape and being our mad genius in the laboratory. But it's also giving us the caution that we need to be aware. That would be the Taurus piece, Uranus and Taurus, of how this affects Mother Earth, how this affects the children, how this affects our true values, how this affects what we want to have that will be long-term things for our bodies, for our soul, for our mind.
And for the collective, Aquarian energy is the collective. So the revolutionary energy or the inventive energy of Aquarius is for the good of the whole. This is like all your great inventions and creativity is to make this world a better place. And it's not always used that way. We've seen inventions used for selfish purposes. But really, in true Aquarian style, if you're following the cycle of the wheel, it's trying to get us to take our energy for the good of the whole, rounding around into Pisces. And really this next couple weeks for sure for this report, but even beyond our 2 weeks that we're talking about, it's going to be Aquarian and Pisces energy for the inner planets or the faster moving planets. They're going to be rolling through that. We still have some big dogs anchored in Capricorn, and they're going to be there for a while, and they're holding that Capricorn energy, and that's a lot of pressure. All the pressure you've been feeling since basically Christmas time, and really even earlier, but has been this Capricorn, Pluto, Saturn conjunction, as we talked about last time. That's still there and is going to be there for a while. But what we're going to talk about this time is the inner planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, moving through Aquarius and into Pisces and back again. So I want to back up the truck to say a little bit about Aquarius, just a little bit more, and that we've mentioned it's the creative surges, that Puhpowee, it's electronics, it's technology, it's electricity, it's innovation, and it's revolution. And before this report, on Monday the 20th, Martin Luther King Day, the sun moved into Aquarius. So there's the sun in Aquarius as well, flavoring this whole thing. And I think it's so indicative of Martin Luther King, the king himself, and our sun being the king of the planets, having moved in on this day of revolution. I just want to give honor to Mr. King, Reverend King, for the work that he did, revolutionary, to help us awaken and be more aware to segregation and racism. And by no means is it eradicated, and we have a long way to go. But I appreciate him for finding his true north and standing in his power, and Puhpowee himself into the position he did to wake us all up a little bit. So namaste to Mr. King, and thank you for that. And that's that Aquarian energy that's flavoring things.
On Martin Luther King Day, when Martin Luther King was doing his work back in the 60s, early 60s, there was an alignment of planets, Uranus and Pluto, that came together in 65 to 67. And Uranus and Pluto have everything to do with revolution of the planet around how we treat each other as souls and human beings. And in 2012 and 15, those planets squared and said, the work that Martin Luther King did was not done. We're still going through it, and we're still evolving with it. So just remembering that we're still moving through these cycles.
And we have much work to do.
And we have much work to do.
So now back up to picking up new moon. That's on the 24th of January. And then we are going to go into the next big, really it's 3 days in a row. It's going to be the 26th, 27th, and 28th of January, where Venus, Mars, and Neptune, and those 3 planets are going to be having a little party of their own, and we'll speak to that. And the first one is a Venus and Mars square on the 26th, and you want to talk about that?
Mars is in Sagittarius, and
Fiery.
And it's fiery. Mars is fiery. Venus is in Pisces, watery,
emotional,
and earthy,
sensitive, loving.
And so we have those elements of earth and fire, or water and fire, coming into each other. Now I'll start with the old school terms. Mars is your masculine, whether you're a man or woman, and Venus is your feminine. Those are kind of 2 gender charged in our culture, so we'll use the terms yin and yang, or solar and lunar, so that we're not thinking so much about body types. Mars is that solar yang, coming out, thrusting out, Puhpowee energy, and it's in Sagittarius. Sagittarius wants to know what the truth is, and what the real things that are going on, and it wants to go on a vision quest to understand the truth. Venus over there, the yin energy, the receptive, the inner, the watery, the loving, the intuitive, is on a spiritual journey. And normally these 2 energies, with their interacting, that would be a really nice thing coming together, but they're squaring. And when they're squaring, there's tension there. Something needs to be resolved. And so something needs to be resolved for all of us individually. Venus and Mars are very personal energies. Though they do play out into the collective, usually when they're interacting with each other, something happens personally for us. Mm-hmm. And so there's tension between our left side and our right side, our solar and our lunar, our inner and our outer, and we need to find a resolution between that outer solar part that wants to go out and conquer and do things, and the inner part that wants to go draw inward and explore the inner worlds and have a spiritual experience and to love everybody. And when they're working together, the Mars element, the yang element, will stand up for the Venus yin element and say, we want to go in and stand up for love. We want to stand up for harmony and unity.
Like the peaceful marches that just passed, the Women's March and the Martin Luther King Day marches. Those are ways that Mars energy, standing up for truth and right way, is used harmoniously with yin energy. For the most part around, they were in harmony, marching in a beautiful, harmonious way. And think of the yin-yang symbol. If the yin is masculine, or is the feminine, and yang is the masculine, when those two come together, it makes that whole sacred hoop, as we would say in the Native American way. It makes the connection of all things coming together. And that's really what we could turn this potential squaring energy of the yin and the yang into, if we work with it with awareness and coming into it with a positive approach and not letting ourselves get blindsided. So that kicks off on Sunday the 26th. And then Venus is going to move right up next to Neptune in Pisces. And these two like each other anyway. They're
that was my Venus-Neptune conjunction.
You think of, put them in Greek terms, where Neptune is Poseidon, the king of the sea, and Venus is Aphrodite. And you've often seen, I think it's Botticelli, don't quote me on that, but Botticelli's picture or painting of Aphrodite rising out of the sea foam, and she's in that shell, and we often equate Aphrodite or / Venus to be Lakshmi in the Vedic tradition, and she comes out of the sea foam too, as well. So there's a lot of that watery energy with the mother figure. We also relate her to Venus is also Mother Mary, so the nurturer, the caregiver, and up there with this watery, mysterious, very spiritual, but also it can be very nebulous and unknown Neptunian energy, and they're pairing up together, and they are also in a loose square to that Mars energy. So we can feel challenged by trusting our spirituality. We can feel challenged with just trusting in general. With loving ourselves and loving everybody, and all this talk about we need to find harmony and peace and trust and the oneness and one love. And then we have that Mars saying, oh, but no, that would be dangerous, shouldn't do it. Why should we trust it? We don't know, that's all uncertain, and we need to be more practical and do some more, I don't want to say manly things, but more aggressive things to be in a safe zone instead of trusting to be in a safe zone. So that can rise. This is also where the term gaslighting comes in. This is a psychological term to describe when one person will make another person feel like they are crazy, like they're delusional and they're forgetful, and they've kind of staged it and manipulated the situation so that the perpetrator makes the victim just feel like they're nuts. And it's all too common, and this is a highly probable groundwork for that kind of energy to happen, where there's an aggressor, the Mars energy pushing in on that Venus-Neptune that could be feeling delusional, feeling lost, feeling nebulous, feeling confused, and the victim buys it, like, oh, it must be me, I must have forgotten, or I must be crazy, or I must have done that, or that didn't happen, even though I could swear it did, but you're telling me it didn't happen. That's gaslighting, and that is something to be super aware of at this time as well. So it can go good and it can go really crazy bad. Be cautious of that. Then we move into Mercury is going to go into its shadow before it goes retrograde. And you want to explain that?
Mm-hmm. Mercury is retrograding first time this year, February 18th all the way up through March 9th. Starting on February 1st, Mercury enters its shadow. One way to think about the shadow is if you're traveling, you get on a train and you're going from one city to another, and you get on the train and you travel all the way to the city you want to go to, and you go nuts. I left my bags back at the other station. You have to go all the way back to where you started from, pick up your bags, and then go forward again. This is what Mercury retrograde to its shadow is. You think you're traveling forward, you forget your bag, Mercury goes retrograde. It gets back to where it started, then it goes forward again. And so the shadow part is that area that you're going back and forth over. And so retrograde is the actual time where Mercury appears to be going backwards, but the shadow is pulling up themes before Mercury actually goes retrograde. So what this means is, while Mercury is in its shadow from February 1st until the 17th, whatever soil it's tilling or whatever tracks the train is going down at that time, whatever experiences you're having these next 2 weeks or almost 3 weeks, are going to be premonitioning or putting energy into the field about what's going to be really brought up for you during the retrograde.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not always bad or good, because sometimes it can bring up things like if you're working on a project, there's little feelers going out at that time, then the project comes up into some full force at the time. But oftentimes Mercury is trying to show us where we need to get back into alignment, back on track.
I was going to give an analogy using your train. If you get on the first time and you're going forward the first time, if you're looking out the windows and you're saying, oh, look at the beautiful countryside, I really appreciate, oh, look at that barn and look at the da-da-da-da-da, and you're enjoying and it's pleasurable, or your thoughts are, I could write that book and I'm going to build that retreat center and I'm going to get those alpacas and I'm going to start my permaculture farm. And those are the thoughts. And then you get to the train station, the next stop, and you go, oh crap, I forgot my bags, and you have to go all the way back again. That back time, whatever you were thinking about on the forward time, what you're saying, is then what you're going to review. Well, you have to go backwards anyway to get it, so why not review?
You might see the farm you're going to buy in the backtrack.
You can write the plans for the farm, and you start to figure out the cost for the alpacas, and you start to Google search where the retreat center could be. It can be a positive. Retrograde doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. But I also mentioned all the things that were good on the first leg out. I was like, all the things I want to be inventive and Aquarian about, all the things that I want to Puhpowee going forward. If I was on that same initial trek, going from the first station to the second station, the first time through, and I was like, oh, that son of a bitch, he's such an asshole, and the way he did that to me, and I'm just going to get him, and and then my sister, and my mother, and my and I'm going to tell my boss, and and it's all this dark, heavy, negative thinking, or I'm not good enough, and nobody's going to like me, and I'm just going to get rejected if I try. Then you get to station, and you go, oh crap, I forgot my bag, so you have to go back again, and go, boy, I really am a worthless, no good, and I am terrible, and nobody, and my mom really is, and my sister, and you go back over it in like it's almost like a slow motion review of everything you were thinking about coming out. So you may as well cut that groove, cut that track with that inertia, not inertia, that movement energy forward, the surging, positive, creative, innovative energy, so that if you have to review it, you just get to go back and get a double take at it. And then you get to go right back over it again and seal it down. It's like tamping it down, like, okay, good, it's all padded. I'm going to call the banker. I'm going to get those alpacas on Tuesday. We're going to start that permaculture. By the way, that's our vision. That's our Puhpowee that we're trying to get going.
With mushrooms.
Right. The kind that you put with your sauteed onions and garlic.
Lion's mane.
No judgment on the other mushrooms. Just want to be clear. Okay, and so I guess that takes us to in bulk, and then we can wrap this up, because the shadow begins the 1st through the 17th. So the first track out to Station B is the 1st through the 17th, and then going back, retrograde starts the 18th and takes us all the way to March 9th. That'll be retrograde, and then it goes direct again March 9th and on forward. Then, so that started February 1st. February 2nd is Imbolc, and you want to speak to Imbolc.
Mm-hmm. Imbolc is what we call one of the quarter seasons. We know the traditional seasons of winter, spring, summer, and fall, and then the midpoints between all of those, the quarter cross, or the svastika, as they would say in Sanskrit, which means to flow with great spirit or flow with the way that life is going. It's like the Wu Wei or the Tao. Imbolc is the midpoint between winter and the spring equinox. You know it as Groundhog's Day. It has a few other names. The Catholic Church has also placed energy there, calls it Candlemass. You can call it Midwinter. And then the Gaelic tradition calls it Brigid's Day or Brigid's Day, and Katrina is holding Brigid's cross.
Yes, and we received this from one of our students, Stephanie Streitzer, who made this out of some twigs and bent them and did a very traditional Brigid's or Brigid's cross, depending how you pronounce it. And you put these at the front of the door of your house, traditionally, but really it could go anywhere. And it's for protection and for bringing in that light energy, or you could think of it as the compass for finding your true north. So Imbolc means in the belly, and this is like the bulbs in the ground that you planted in the fall, and you can purposely place them so the little pointy parts up and the root ball is at the bottom, and they're going to go straight up and seek the light and head through for true north. About now they start to wake up from their sleepy winter. Well, you didn't have to place them truly straight up, and I've done this as a test, because I used to always put them straight up, and then I was told, no, they'll find their way straight up no matter what. So I just threw them in the ground one time to see if that would happen, and sure enough, they all came up. They rotate themselves in the belly, in bulk, at this time, and they seek the light or their true north, and they start to push up Puhpowee towards the top. And so they're beginning that emergence. They're beginning that rotation. It's still in the very, very beginning stages. We don't see the little green shoots coming through the ground until about springtime or just a little before. But they're beginning their emergence. Same with the snake that goes burying down into the ground. It starts to turn and twist in its little burrow down there in the earth's belly, and it starts to rotate and get itself ready to seek the light or find its true north. Very similar to the acorn in the winter. It falls off the tree, it lands in the ground, the leaves fall on it, the debris of the winter foliage, and then the snow lands on it and everything settles into the earth and it buries in it. It just winterizes and goes dormant. And about now, that little acorn is starting to go, oh wait, I'm an oak tree. And it's starting to become ready for its Puhpowee or emergence to rise up and turn into its higher purpose, or finding its true north, which is really the acorn's true north, is to be that oak tree. So all of this is really just for us to take note as above, so below, as within, so about. It's time for us to recalibrate our compass, start to shift in the belly itself of our own existence, and seek that light and ready ourselves for that emergence with our creative Aquarian energy and our surging out into innovation and revolution and changing things and being our truth and not being afraid. Not letting the dark shadows tell us no, not letting that gaslighting making us feel like we're crazy, not letting the overpowering of that Mars energy come in and make us feel small or that we're not good enough, not letting that Mercury Shadow or retrograde shadow track tell a story that's not really healthy for us, but planting our own positive light path and emerging strong Puhpowee style. Find your true north. I guess you can wrap it up of the full moon in Leo.
Not too much to say, but this will complete the cycle. Full moon in Leo. It's the complementary energy to Aquarius. If Aquarius is about how you're going to do visionary work and put it out there, it needs Leo to do it. And Leo is the heart. Leo is being warm and compassionate, and it's working with an individual. Your vision may be for many people, but we have to work with individual people and have compassion and work with them. So the full moon will be bringing that theme. How are you going to take your big vision and how are you going to make it real for real people and let your heart energy go into it?
And that'll be on the full moon. So all this Aquarian new moon seeds that you're planting will come to its fullness on that next time that we meet on February 8th. And if you really like working with Mother Earth energy and learning more about it, we are taking a yoga retreat to Taos on April 24th through the 26th, staying down at the beautiful Hotel Monte Segundo, and we have our native teacher joining us for some really beautiful talks, and there's lots of astrology talk as well, and we'll do yoga and meditation and soak in the pool and really let ourselves connect in to that springtime that it will be in at that time. So if you're interested, see the link below and join us. There's limited space for that. And then, of course, our other retreat is in Greece. We've been telling you about that one. There's a couple rooms left for that. That's in July, the 1st through the 8th, on the island of Lesbos. And if you've not aware of it, it's magical. Take a look again at the link below and learn a little more and join us for that one as well. Guess that's all. We'll wrap it up.
Namaste.